I'm going to take a risk tonight. I don't often take risks in readings. Usually what I do is I try to pick something that I think will be funny, so everybody's entertained. And I debated this for a long time, but Denny convinced me that I should read this. It's from a book that I haven't sold anybody yet. Hardly anybody's seen it. It's called As Far as the Eye Can See, and it's my first Western. I don't think I have to tell you much about it. I just, to set up what's part I'm going to read, this character, his name is Bobby Hale. He was a bounty jumper in the military. He signed up 6 times, and each time he had a different name, and he just kept the last name he chose. But he ended up in some battles, and he's gone out west to make his fortune, and he's done something that has made it necessary for him to get out of the West. Okay, and so he's running, but he wants to go back to Bozeman, Montana, where Eveline is, a woman that he saw as his future. He finally realized that Eveline was where he belonged, and he promised her he'd be back by spring. But now he's running, and he's decided to run back to Bozeman to get her and go west even further. While he's running, he has to avoid Indians and cavalry. Because the only thing you could do back in those days that would make all of them want to kill you is kill a peace party. And for reasons that are really understandable, and he didn't know it was a peace party, he kills these 3 Indian braves, and it was a peace party, and now the army wants him, and so do the Indians. That's why he's avoiding everybody. And he accidentally shoots this Indian that he discovers. Doesn't accidentally, he shoots the Indian on purpose, but then he finds out when he goes to check on the bodies that it's an Indian, all right, but it's a woman. So now he's got her, and he's trying to take care of her. And all he wants to do, he feels so bad about shooting her, he helps mend her, because the bullet went under the skin like this across her abdomen, but didn't hit any organs or anything. So he's trying to help her get better, and then what he wants to do is take her to Fort Buford and then start back west to Bozeman. He spent a little time trying to talk her into going to Bozeman, but she doesn't want to go there. She's running from her husband. His name is Hump. I think that's all I have to tell you. There really was a Hump. There were 3 of them, actually. One was an Assiniboine, one was an Aerosol Gone, and the other was Lakota. All Sioux, by the way. So they're traveling only at night. And during the day, they camp someplace out of sight. And they've been traveling, and they found this campsite in some good timberland. And he's gone hunting with a bow to try to get him something to eat. And he shot a deer with a bow. And he left Ink, still healing, sit next to a tree with a great big Colt Dragoon in their lap, just in case Hump might come along. I think that's all I need to tell you. It's probably near the middle of the day, and I've already killed a small deer with the bow and started cleaning it when I hear a pistol shot down the mountain and way back where I left Ink. It's so loud it swallows a few beats of my heart, like it come from deep in there and not the woods at all. I put the knife back in my belt, grab the carbine, leave the bow and arrow and the gutted deer right where they lay, and start running back. I go fast, for a long time, skipping downhill, headlong, working like hell to stay on my feet, dodging trees, holding the carbine at the ready, and I hear 2 more shots, loud and final. I stop for a second to listen, so out of breath I can't break out of the noise I'm making. The woods have no sound. I feel my heart hammering against my ribs. I think I can still hear the echo of those pistol shots moving through the trees and out into the sunlight. And then it is completely silent. There ain't no noise at all. And I know whatever happened is over now. When I get back to camp, everything is gone except for 2 white men laying on the ground near the tree where Ink was sitting the last time I seen her. One has been shot right in the left eye, and the only thing moving near him is a couple of flies that circle and drop over the gurgling wound. His other eye don't see nothing at all. The other fellow is still alive, but holding on to his lower gut like it's on fire. He squirms and breathes, hisses like a big snake. He sees me and tries to slither away, but I go over to him and stop with the barrel of my carbine right in the space between his shoulder and his jaw, and he don't move an inch. I'm done for, he says. He's killed me. Who's killed you? That Injun that was sitting here. Really? Help me, he says. What Injun? A little fellow, he grunts out. He was trying to take the horses back. That's what we was doing. What do you mean take them back? He stole our horses. The hell he did. Those was our horses. He looks at me hard, like he can't really make me out. He gasps for air. I sling the carbine over my shoulder and squat down next to him. He ain't no more than 20 years old, if that. He'd have a hell of a time getting a beard to sprout. He's missing his front teeth and he ain't seen a bath in a long time. He's wearing a dirty buffalo skin jacket and blue regular army trousers. Right now, pine needles and chips of wood cling to his hair. I can see he's sweating to beat all. Blood seeps through his shaking hands. Help me, he says. Ain't nothing for it, I say. Oh, Lordy, Lordy. He commences crying a little bit, and I feel embarrassed for him. Where'd he go? Who? He looks at me. The Indian. They took him. They'll make him pay. Who took him? Treat, he grunts out. Treat. Now, this guy, Treat, is somebody he knew a couple of years before when he first came out. Treat? I'll be goddamn. He looks at me. Treat's a young fellow, ain't he, I say. He scrunches his face up a bit in pain, then he gasps, near my age. How many, I say. There was 5 of us. We run together. That one over there is my big brother. Well, he's done for, I say. I know, oh God, oh God. Where was Treat headed? I can't feel nothing below my waist. It's probably a good thing. Tell me, where was they headed? Suddenly he comes back to himself a little bit, and it hits him that he don't know who I am or what I might be up to. I ain't telling you nothing. Suit yourself, I say, and stand up. He starts to try and move away, and I put the barrel of the gun against his jaw again. You ain't going nowhere. He's crying some more, but not out loud. I need water. I ain't got no water. I sure could use some water. Neither one of us says nothing for a spell. It's going to take a very long time for him to die. And when it's finally over, he won't have vocal cords left because of all the screaming he's going to do. The bullet has made a big hole in his lower stomach, and I can already smell it. Your bowel shot, I say. If you're lucky, you'll bleed to death. I've seen it happen to some folks. Most die of the infection, though. That's a long time. New terror bulges in his eyes. He's seen this kind of death before, even as young as he is. It could be real bad, I say. Finish me, he gasps. I'd be more than happy to, I say. Just tell me where Treat was headed. He thinks about it for a spell. I see his eyes staying fierce for just a little bit, and then something in them gives way. He don't see no point in suffering for folks that left him here to die. It's Treat and 2 others. They was headed for the agency at Fort Berthold. Where is that? He shakes his head like he needs to get fog out of it. It's downriver from Buford. I lift the carbine up and let it hang over my shoulders. He lays there staring at me, his mouth open a little and dry as a sun-baked rock. Every time he breathes, it takes something moist out of his mouth and eyes. When he tries to talk some more, his tongue seems to stick to the roof of his mouth, and it makes a noise like something that's slapped into a bowl of molasses. Help me, he manages to say. You got a pistol? He nods. I squat down again, lay the carbine next to me, open his jacket. He's got a Schofield revolver tucked in his trousers. I pull it out, empty all the shells but one out of it, and give it back to him. You do it, I say. I don't want to. I go back over to his brother and remove his pistol. It's a Colt Dragoon, the exact same kind of pistol as the one I give Ink, except it's got a fancy pearl handle. I search him for ammunition and find a pouch of it tied to his belt. I ain't even thought yet about the fact that I'm on foot now. I got no food. I got no water. I left the bow and arrow all the way up the hill and don't want to go back there now. I gotta find Ink. I hear a click behind me and turn to see the wounded fellow sitting up holding the Schofield to his head. Shit, he says. It misfired. I walk back over to him. I'm still here, he says, and he actually gives this little laugh like the joke is on him. Yes, you are. I take the gun away from him and put a few more shells in it, then I hold it next to his head just above his ear. Thank you, he says. I would probably miss. He looks straight ahead like a man waiting for the barber to make the first snips of his hair. I pull the trigger and it clicks again. Damn, he says. I pull the trigger a second time, and a second time it clicks. I hate these goddamn Confederate pistols, I say. One more time ought to, he starts to say, but this time when I pull the trigger it goes off, and his head snaps away from me, a splash of blood flying with it, and he falls over. I drop the gun where he lays and start off down the hill, walking as fast as I can toward the clear ground away from the trees. I want to get away from these pine needles that leave no track where people or horses walk. I figure I'm following at least 7 horses, and Cricket, that's the name of his horse, is one of them. I think Treat will want to be near water, so he'll lead them down to the river. The ground in the foothills closer to the river will be easier to track them in. I want Treat to have good sense, to want to stay near the river. I don't want him to be smart enough to wonder what that last shot was all about. I don't want him to know I'm following him. I try not to think of what they plan on doing with their Indian captive.